The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Insights. This morning we will be sitting down with Peter Patalia, and we're going to be talking more about the road bill. Now, Peter, we have talked so much about the road bill, and everyone in town is confused or they don't know what's exactly going on. So first I want to welcome you here and say, let's talk some more about this.
Sure. You know, and it's a great thing to talk about. As we mentioned before we went on the air, I've done over 20 presentations in and around the north and 6 down in Lansing and Lansing area. It's a very complicated package of bills, extremely complicated package of bills. And ultimately what people are voting on in May is not the road package. They're voting on a sales tax and a use tax increase.
And I know a lot of people get confused about, I guess I should say first, before we get into this, you are not advocating one side or the other
correct.
Today. You're just
Right.
giving us the facts, right?
All of my presentations are factual. I try not to advocate one way or the other. And actually, since I use state resources for this, I cannot legally do that.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to it. So a lot of people are confused about what is the use tax and the sales tax. What is that going to do?
A lot of people have a misunderstanding what sales and use tax is. Sales tax is understandable. You buy a sales taxable product, a pair of socks or a jacket, new car, that has sales tax on it. That is, if it passes in May, and what they're voting on in May, will raise it to 7% from 6%. But also use tax. Use tax is a tax that you have on your cell phone bill or your cable bill, or if you stay at a hotel or rent a boat or go golfing. That has a use tax on it. That is also going from 6 to 7%.
Okay, so any activity we do where we use something, we will pay the taxes
Right.
for that then.
If you just look at it this way, a sales tax is something that you buy, get, and take home. A use tax is an activity that you engaged in and you don't actually leave with something.
Right. Okay, so that is actually what we will be voting on Tuesday then.
That's correct. None of the road package you'll be voting on Tuesday. What you'll be voting on Tuesday is saying yes to a sales and use tax increase from 6 to 7% or no.
Okay, and how is that going to affect our roads then?
One of the bills, one of the most controversial bills, is the fact that we took sales tax off of gasoline and rolled it into a wholesale gas tax, which gets kind of complicated. But because we took sales tax off of gasoline on one of the bills, at $2.50 a gallon today, the sales tax collected on that is about $1.3 billion, roughly. So that money is earmarked for K-12, community colleges, universities, local governments. Some of it goes down to the general fund. So what you're voting on is to replace the money that we took off of the sales tax on fuel sales.
Okay, because that would be turned into a wholesale tax.
It would go to a wholesale gas tax. Now the wholesale gas tax gets complicated in itself. Right now on fuel in Michigan, there's 3 taxes. There's 18.4 cents, which is a federal excise tax or the federal gas tax. There's 19 cents on gasoline, that's a state gasoline tax. Both of those are based on volume. So if a gallon of gas is $4 a gallon or $2 a gallon, it's still only 19 cents to Michigan and 18.4 cents to the feds, plus Michigan charges sales tax on top of that. Sales tax does not go to roads and infrastructure. That's the misconception.
Okay.
That goes to the other streams, the sales tax revenue streams.
Okay, so the whole gas tax thing, all of that wouldn't be going towards fixing our roads because you have to take into account education and everything else, right?
That's correct. So on May 5th, when the ballot proposal, if it passes, about $1.3 billion will go to backfill the loss to the sales tax revenue stream. The rest of it will go to other things. So it's arguable right now that 60% of the increase, if passed, will go to backfill the needs of the roads. The remaining 40% will go to schools, local governments, revenue sharing, DNR marinas, ORV trails, bike paths, safety trails, a whole litany of other things that it'll go to.
Okay, and why will not all of it go towards the roads and some has to go to education and everything else?
And that's the complication of the bills. Personally, the first set of bills that I voted on dedicated all monies and all revenues that would be generated, new monies, would go directly to roads, bridges, and infrastructure. I am thoroughly convinced that not enough money is being spent today. Due to our poor economy for the last 10 or 12 years, people drove less fuel are being consumed, so therefore less money was coming into the state for roads and infrastructure projects, and people want new and better and safer roads. We need it. I truly believe that. This proposal tries to do a whole litany of other things. Funding sources for local governments, funding sources for DNR marinas, funding sources for schools and education. And that is the biggest challenge to it, is people don't accept, or understand the complication of it.
I know, I've talked to some people in the community as well, and that is the hardest part, is people are saying, well, how much money is actually going to go to the roads, because they hear education, DNR, marinas, all of that stuff is included, and they just want to know how much of this will go to the roads.
Right. Well, let's say, what happens on May 6th if this bill passes? If this bill passes on May 6th, absolutely nothing happens until October 1st of this year. October 1st of this year, that's when the monies will start being collected. The sales tax revenue will go up, the tax shift at the pump will go up.
Is that when the use tax will go in?
All of it will go up on October 1st. Gasoline tax will go up 10 to 12 cents. And then 9 months after that, that's when we will take in the legislative body, if this passes, $400 million and put it at the top of the road formula, which ultimately means not all of it goes to roads, because it goes through a very complicated formula. And the remaining money will go to pay down debt borrowed by previous governors to do road and infrastructure projects, which we are on the hook to pay. Another long story. So you could figure the increase of tax and revenues, about 50% of it will start going to roads in 2016.
Okay, so the tax, even though the tax will go into effect starting October, nothing for our roads will change until 2016?
That's correct, and very little in 2016, because we're only putting $400 million at the top of the formula, which is not a lot of money. The following year, $800 million, and then the third year, $1.2 billion. So I tell people that this year, if this passes, do not count on any more road work. Next year, very little road work. Most likely what will happen is MDOT and our county road agencies can start anticipating having the funds come in so they can start engineering projects. 2017 is when you'll start seeing some more road work. 2018 will start ramping up. So it'll be a slow process to get with this plan.
And that's just because it takes a lot of time to plan out all of this, correct?
That's correct. Plus the monies don't start being collected for essentially a year.
So you have to wait till the money starts rolling in
That's
as well,
correct.
and then plan. And for 2016, is everything already set for the roads that will be fixed?
That's right. To do proper road work, they project. They have a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, 25-year plan. And they need to do that. Our county road agency here in Alpena does a wonderful job. MDOT actually does a very wonderful job. They have to plan these projects out. Not that that isn't a liquid formula. It changes periodically due to needs and unintended consequences of something that might pop up. But they need to plan that out. And it needs to be done for lots of reasons. One, it's hard for them to engineer. Two, we have a very short building season here in Michigan. And we're also limited on how many people are qualified to do the work, the contractors. Okay. So it's a challenge.
Definitely. All right, well, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we are going to talk about what we are currently doing with our transportation money. Welcome back to Insights, everyone. We are still here talking about the road package with Peter Patalia. Now, Peter, I want to know, and I know a lot of other people want to know, why are we in this mess? Why do we have this funding shortfall?
That's a great question, and I'm asked that often. Again, Michigan's dedicated funding sources for roads, number one is volume of gas sold, we collect 19 cents per volume of gas sold. So we lived through, in Michigan, arguably the lost decade is what people like to refer it to. But we've had 10, 12, or even 14 years of terrible economic times in Michigan. We actually lost 1 million Michigan residents who left the state. Therefore, they're consuming less gas. And remember, we're basing this on volume of gas sold. And the interesting statistics, when I was the chair of tourism last year, during those hard economic times, people were traveling in Michigan within one fill-up, meaning they'll travel someplace for a half a tank of gas and come back, so they're buying less fuel. So less fuel being consumed in Michigan meant that less revenues were coming in to do the roads. Okay. If you look at the last 10 years on a bar graph of monies coming in for Michigan roads, it's actually on a downward slide. Less money in the dedicated funds in 2015 than there was 10 years prior. And that's a difficult thing. So our county road agencies have been getting less money. MDOT's been getting less money. The cities and townships and villages. So that's why we are in the problem we are today.
Okay, and you said that's just because there's not as many people living in our state.
Well, no, they're coming back. That's the good news.
Right.
We're getting
I was
back.
going to ask, are they coming back? Are we seeing more tourists as well?
Absolutely. You know, with gas, when it dropped to $2 a gallon, people are consuming again. But that's not even the whole of the picture. When you look at automobiles, trucks, and other vehicles on our roads today, we have hybrids, we have pure electric vehicles. They're not even consuming fuels. And the rest of the vehicles, the gas-propelled vehicles or the diesel-propelled vehicles, are actually consuming less because the fuel economy has gone up. That's the good news. We need less fuel, but the formula that we have to collect taxes is based on volume. The sales tax is the catcher in Michigan. That's based on the dollar price.
Okay, so is that why when legislatures started saying, uh-oh, we're not selling as much fuel because there's not as many people here, is that when you guys sort of said we need to do something, and that's how the bill was created?
That's correct, absolutely. And I supported the bill that changed, taking sales tax off of gasoline, taking Michigan's 19 cents off of gasoline and rolling it into a wholesale gas tax. That way there it'll be based on the dollar amount that it's sold, so it'll travel up and down with inflation instead of being a fixed figure. The reports are showing us that within 10 years, the average vehicle will be getting excess of 50 miles to the gallon. So if we stay on the formula that we are now, 10 years from now, we'll actually be collecting less. We're driving less, we have more fuel-efficient cars. The formula that we have is antiquated and will not continue to work.
So something definitely does need to be done
Absolutely.
Or changed
Absolutely.
then?
No matter where I make this presentation, whether they're yes or a no on the proposal, overwhelmingly people understand that the formula that we presently have in Michigan is not something that's sustainable. We have to change it to a different system.
So it's just kind of finding what's the best solution
Absolutely
right now, correct?
Right.
So this bill that we're voting on is one solution.
The only thing we're voting on is
the sales
right,
tax
that's
and
right.
the use
There are
tax,
actually
which will
10 bills that the citizens do not get to vote on, but they're all, like I said before, tie-barred.
Right, which is what, like we've been saying, is so confusing
Correct.
to a lot
Absolutely
of people.
correct.
But something else I want to touch on is when people travel out of the state to our sister states, they say, you know, Ohio or Wisconsin, they have such great roads, and their gas is a lot less expensive.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, a good example, I'd like to use Wisconsin. All of our sister states, Michigan and Wisconsin, are the only two states that do not have toll roads. So toll roads is a whole nother challenge. Michigan's tax on gasoline at $4 a gallon, let's just use $4 a gallon as a number, with 6% sales tax, that's 24 cents. 19 cents is our fixed gas tax. That's 43 cents that Michigan citizens are being taxed on that gas. Wisconsin doesn't have sales tax on gasoline. Wisconsin charges 30.9 cents as a fixed gas tax. So they're taking 31 cents in that goes directly to roads, where that scenario that I just gave you at 43 cents in Michigan, only 19 cents goes to roads. So Michigan pays $184 per capita for roads. Wisconsin does $302 per capita for roads. So they're spending more on roads. Their gas is cheaper because there's no sales tax on it, and yet they're charging a higher tax, therefore being able to do more road work.
Okay, so it's because they charge a higher tax that they're able to have the extra money that we don't.
That's correct. The difference is 100% of the taxes charged on fuel sales goes to roads, where Michigan is not.
Because some of ours goes to education and the DNR.
Local governments and the rest of it, that's correct.
Okay, so has our government in Michigan's looked at Wisconsin or Indiana
Absolutely.
and said, maybe we should do that?
Absolutely, and that's what one of the bills is to take off sales tax and then go to a wholesale gas tax. Pennsylvania, out of all of our sister states, is the highest tax of gas at 50.5 cents per gallon. And they're paying, I believe it's just a little over $600 per capita on their roads. They went to a wholesale gas tax, but they've really raised their prices, and I don't think I would be able to support that because of the amount of money that their gas costs, and it actually hurts our people of lesser financial means. And you know, up here we have people that drive a long ways to maybe work at one of the box stores that may not have the highest salary. So it's hard on our northern Michigan residents, and I'm very aware of that, so I'm very cautious about raising that. But yes, Pennsylvania, 50.5 cents, spending $600 per capita on the roads. They're going to be doing a lot of road work.
So they probably have really nice roads.
Not yet. They just changed.
Or
they just changed in the last 2 years, so they're ramping up now to start doing road work.
So have you heard from our people here, our local people, that that's something they would want to do?
Absolutely. The polling that I've done in the 106th district overwhelmingly says, the first question is, are you aware that all taxes collected at the pump does not go to roads? And overwhelmingly, 72% said no, we thought it did. And the next question, would you like all taxes collected at the pump to go to roads? And overwhelmingly, they said yes. That creates the problem.
Right, because we still have to find funding, correct, for education and that sort of thing.
It's part of the sales tax stream to use fuel sales as part of the revenues collected for the sales tax revenue.
Okay. Are there other states, our sister states, who have bills like that as well, where some of their funding goes for education and
Sure,
the DNR?
sure, absolutely. Out of the three, out of our sister states, there's only 3 states that still charge sales tax. It's Michigan, Indiana, and Illinois are the only ones that still charge sales tax on gasoline. But they have other funding sources too. Indiana, a lot of toll roads. Illinois, a lot of toll roads, so that helps them. Also, Indiana and Illinois both only charge 19 cents and 18 cents towards the roads based on volume. But interesting enough, especially Illinois, they consume a lot more fuel than we do. And it's mainly because of the hub of the trucking market. You know, all the trucks that come from Sarnia or Canada traveling through Michigan or New York, and they travel through Chicago, and then they're distributed through Chicago. So they burn a lot more gas than we do, therefore collecting a lot more money. Plus the toll roads really help them.
Right, because we don't have as much travel like that through
That's correct.
Michigan. But speaking of the toll roads, is that something else that...
No, Michigan cannot do toll roads. We took and made a deal with the federal government way back in the days when the Federal Highway Act came into play, and it was determined by the leaders of the state at that time that toll roads would not generate as much money as if we would take more money from the federal government, which we do. Because Michigan being a peninsula state, and especially back then when the Federal Highway Act first came in, we didn't have the Mackinac Bridge, we didn't have the bridges between Windsor and Canada and Detroit, or the Blue Water Bridge over Sarnia, certainly not the Mackinac Bridge. So everything was a dead end in Michigan, so toll roads would have been very ineffective and inefficient. So therefore they decided to go without toll roads. So we can't do toll roads unless we totally build an independent road, which is not feasible.
Which, yeah, wouldn't make sense.
No, would not make sense.
All right, we're going to go to a commercial break again, but when we come back, we will continue talking with Mr. Patalia. All right, welcome back to Insights, everyone. We're still here with Peter Patalia. Now, Peter, I know one of the biggest complaints you hear from people is in this package, the registration fees will rise.
That's correct. Yeah, that's a real challenge to northern Michigan. And let me explain a little bit. First of all, part of the registration, the heavier trucks will go up 30%. Your big rigs, the multi-axle trucks will go up 30%. The challenge of that is that's the cost of doing business. So the cost of that will have to be put on the consumer. The cost of your groceries or your lumber at the lumber store, whatever else, that'll be transferred. But when it comes down to us common drivers of a pickup or a car, today if you buy a brand new car worth $30,000, your first year registration is $150. In design, we have in the state of Michigan where that'll drop 10% a year for 4 years, ultimately taking $60 off that $150, dropping it down to $90, and then it'll stay on that car for the lifetime of that car at $90. Whether it's 10 years old or 15 years old or whatever, no matter who owns it, it stays at $90. If this passes, one of the bill packages will maintain the registration fee at the new car level, so that same scenario, $150, will stay on that car forever. No matter who owns it, no matter how old it is, it stays at the new car registration fee forever, plus a ladder of inflation. And up north, we're not a very wealthy area, but oftentimes a household with 2 drivers will have 3 cars. Or a family that has teenage drivers may have multiple cars. And I find that to be very expensive. I voted no on that. I believe it hits northern Michigan a little bit too hard. If you're buying a new car every 1 to 2 years, it's not affecting you.
Right.
But if you're standing in line and buying that 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old car, that's where it's affecting you.
Right, and especially if you have 2 teenagers in the house with 2 cars, that is a lot of extra money to pay those registration fees.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
And let's talk, we didn't really hit on this yet, but let's talk about there's actually 10 bills within this proposal, correct?
That's correct.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Let's talk about the less controversial ones. One will raise pure electric cars registration to $75. One will raise the hybrids, the Toyota Priuses and the Hondas with the electric motor and the gas motor, raise their registration $25. One will take your overweight truckloads, the big trucks that are driving down the road with the flags, with a lead vehicle and a trace vehicle, with something big in the middle. Today their permits are $50. We raised that to $100. Very uncontroversial. Demanding warranties of our road builders. We want to project this project out for 20 years. We want you to bid on it with a 20-year warranty. People accept that, and frankly, I also do myself. Competitive bidding by local road agencies. Instead of a road agency doing the work themselves, they have to now competitively bid that out. That really won't affect us much up here, but some of the downstate road commissions have their own paving companies where the citizens believe if they would competitively bid that out to the private sector, they may get it cheaper. So that's one of the
and maybe a little bit better work.
I don't want to say that because I think our road agencies do a good job, but that's certainly an arguable point. But those bills are very acceptable. So there's 7 or 8 bills that are very acceptable. There's some controversial ones. One bill that's in there is raising unearned income tax credit from 6 to 20%. And that really doesn't even belong in a road package bill. That is something that should be in our welfare budget more so than a road budget. And that one really bothers me. I actually voted no on that because there's no funding source for that. And what does that have to do with roads?
Right.
So those are some of the challenging bills that are in there.
I know, and that's where, as we've talked, a lot of the complication comes from. But like you said, people won't be voting on those bills. You deal with that.
That's correct. They've already been dealt with. But if May 6th we wake up and it fails, all of those packages go away. They totally go away, and then we rebuild.
Right, and I was going to ask, like you said, on May 6th, if this is voted no and those bills go away, is the world going to end, or will our roads get fixed?
You know, on May 6th, and I love this question, thanks for asking it. On May 6th when we wake up, if this fails, there is lots of time to do lots of different ideas. And as we just talked about, 7 or 8 of these bills will transfer right over to the next bill package. And again, as we mentioned in the first segment, if this does pass, we don't see any new road construction for 2016 or 2015 anyway, and very little in 2016. So we have a lot of time to get this right. And again, overwhelmingly, when I speak to different groups, they all agree that not enough money is being spent.
So even if it's voted yes, we're not going to see any work for quite some time, at
That's
least
correct.
a year. And if it's voted no, you have all of that time to create something new.
That's correct. That's correct.
Something else I wanted to ask is, how much will this cost our people if it is voted yes?
It's figured that the average driver will be spending, if it passes the first year, about $250 additional per driver. The average household, $500 to $800 the first year, and that will increase as the cost of goods go up and the cost of a car goes up, cost of fuel goes up. So that's about $250 a vehicle or a driver, $500 to $800 a household.
So definitely the prices will be increasing then.
Absolutely. This really is the biggest tax increase in my lifetime that I've had an opportunity to vote on. Arguably, the National Health Care Act is the most expensive tax increase, but I haven't had a chance to vote on that one.
Yeah. All right, Peter, well, I want to thank you so much for
Sure.
sitting down with us. Hopefully by our talk, we were able to better explain this to a lot of people. So,
Sure. It would, if I could say, if anybody wants to reach out to my office and explain it further, I'd be happy to do that.
And they have 2 more days to reach out to
That's
you.
correct.
So,
That's correct. And I will say this, please vote. Get out and vote
Definitely.
May 5th. It's the best thing you can do.
Definitely, I would agree. Everyone get out there and vote. And thank you so much for tuning in today.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.